Today, we are going to dig into one of the most powerful stories of our time, the story of progress. You know the one. It's this idea of constant improvement where our amazing technology is always solving our biggest problems. But what if that story has a dark side? What if our entire definition of progress is actually hiding a really dangerous trap? You know, our whole modern world is absolutely built on a story, and it's a powerful one. It goes something like this. Through human smarts and incredible technology, life just keeps getting better and better. Every new generation is pretty much guaranteed to have a better, more comfortable, more powerful life than the one before. And this isn't just some nice idea. It's like the invisible blueprint for how we've built everything around us. And let's be really clear, this story has delivered on a lot of its promises. I mean, it's given us hospitals and satellites, vaccines that have literally saved millions of lives, and widespread literacy. It has genuinely reduced an immense amount of suffering for billions of people. We can't forget that. The story of progress has been this huge, positive force in the world. But this is where the story starts to get complicated, because it taught us to measure success in a super narrow way. We got really, really good at counting things like GDP, economic output. But we totally ignored the things that are harder to put a number on, like the health of our ecosystems, the trust in our communities, or even our own sense of purpose. And it turns out the stuff we leave out of our definition of progress, well, that's often the very stuff we end up destroying. Okay, so to really see how this plays out, let's look at one of the most celebrated innovations of the entire 20th century. One that, it turns out, was hiding a truly devastating secret: leaded gasoline. So, back in the 1920s, car engines had this problem called engine knock. It was this rattling sound that really damaged the engine over time. Well, a chemist named Thomas Midgley Jr. came up with what seemed like a totally brilliant solution. Just add a tiny bit of tetraethyl lead to the gasoline. And boom, it worked perfectly. Cars ran quieter, their engines lasted way longer, and it was hailed as this huge triumph of industrial innovation. But that genius solution came at an absolutely staggering, invisible cost. The number you're looking at here, 824 million, that's the estimated total number of IQ points lost across the globe because of exposure to leaded gasoline. We were literally pumping a powerful neurotoxin into the air every single time someone drove their car. And this timeline just shows the devastating delay in understanding. So the solution gets introduced way back in 1921, and then for decades, while we're all celebrating it, entire generations of children are being poisoned by it. It wasn't until the 1980s, and even later, that we finally grasped the full consequences. Not just lower IQs, but a shocking link to spikes in violent crime. And this gets to the heart of the problem. We fix one small, local issue, that engine knock. But in the process, we create this massive, invisible, global wound that poisons basically the entire human population. And that right there is the definition of immature progress, a short-term fix that puts a mortgage on our long-term health. Now, leaded gasoline wasn't just some horrible one-off mistake. No, it's actually part of a much bigger, repeating pattern of these so-called miracle innovations that ended up being total disasters. I mean, the pattern is just undeniable when you start to look for it. Thalidomide, it was a wonder drug for morning sickness that caused horrific birth defects. Asbestos, hailed as a miracle fireproofer, now a deadly carcinogen. Those forever chemicals, PFAS, they gave us nonstick pans, and now they're found in nearly every single one of us. And even today, the algorithms designed to keep us engaged online are shattering our attention spans and tearing our societies apart. It's different technologies, but the exact same underlying pattern of harm. So why? Why do we keep making this same mistake over and over again? Well, to understand that, we need to grab a really important idea, a distinction made famous by the economist Herman Daly that our whole story of progress just completely missed. Daly pointed out this crucial difference between growth and development. See, growth is just about getting bigger, more stuff, more output, more consumption. It's all about quantity. Development, on the other hand, is about getting better. It's about improving in quality, becoming more efficient, more just, more sustainable, all without having to get physically bigger forever. And this analogy just makes the difference so perfectly clear. A child is supposed to grow, right? But at a certain point, that physical growth has to stop. If it didn't, it would become a nightmare. Instead, the child keeps developing, becoming more mature, wiser, more capable. Our civilization has been obsessed with endless growth, when what we really should have been focusing on is development. So, if our current model is immature, then what in the world does a mature vision of progress actually look like? Well, It requires a huge shift in how we think. We have to move away from a mindset of just taking and extracting and toward one of regeneration. A mature kind of progress is based on a few key principles. First, you have to make the polluter actually pay for the real damage they cause. Second, you have to really try to figure out the long-term consequences before you roll a technology out to everyone. Third, you design things that actually regenerate life, kind of like how a healthy forest creates new soil instead of using it all up. And finally, you expand your moral thinking to include the well-being of people who won't even be born for hundreds of years.
But here's the thing. To chase this kind of mature progress, we can't keep using the same old report card. We get what we measure. If our scoreboard is telling us we're winning while our planet and our societies are falling apart, then the problem is the scoreboard itself.
And this is not a new idea. Way back in 1968, Robert F. Kennedy pointed this out so perfectly. GDP goes up when we sell more cigarettes or have to clean up a toxic spill. It counts activity, sure, but it says absolutely nothing about well-being or health or happiness. It measures everything except that which makes life worthwhile. So what we need is a whole new scoreboard. Frameworks like the donut economics model you see here try to do exactly that. They create a kind of dashboard for civilization that helps us see how we're really doing. The goal is to meet the basic needs of every single person, things like health and equity, while making sure we don't destroy the planet in the process. The real aim is to measure true flourishing, not just endless economic activity. All of this leads us to a brand new and much better definition. Mature progress isn't about having more stuff or more power. It's about increasing the ability for all of life, human and non-human, to truly flourish, not just for us today, but for all the generations that will come after us. And that leaves us with a final, really profound question. For centuries, our story of progress has been about dominating the natural world. But maybe, just maybe, a new story is starting to emerge, one where we use our incredible creativity not to control the world, but to become wiser, more conscious participants in the great, beautiful unfolding of life itself.